Joining us now, all the way from Edmonton, Alberta, from Oilers Nation, a host on our sister station, Ryder. Thanks for joining us, buddy.
Oh, hello. Thank you for having me. Studio looks good.
Oh, thanks. Except for this ugly flag behind me, right? This Patriots flag can go.
I was thinking how unprofessional it looks that I'm calling you from the living room, but I haven't got my home studio up and running yet, so...
Well, I mean, Ryder's a little bit busy. You got the Sauce podcast keeping you busy with your partner in crime, Lisa, there. I know you also do some other radio shows on some of our sister stations here, so I do appreciate you taking the time. Talk a little Oilers hockey.
Yeah, they're keeping me busy too. I think 16 games in January, so it feels like every second night we've got another game, which has been it's been great leading up to the Olympic break. Should be nice.
Yeah, you got to jam in all of those games before they take that Olympic break. Now, the first thing I want to start with, Ryder, Bouchard. Okay, historic performance on the weekend. First defensive player in, I think, 2 decades, only 7th defenseman in Oilers history to get a Hattie. Remember all those haters earlier in the season? What do you say to them?
I mean, I feel like they might have been onto something earlier in the season. He did start off pretty bad. But even his bad is better than most's good. So I think a lot of the haters, it is quite surprising how negative they are about his play, because you see games like that out of him. I mean, we haven't seen a game like that out of him, but you see great performances constantly. And like in the playoffs last year, he was absolute, like locked in offensively, defensively. He's a beast on the power play. I do feel like if he was in an American city and there wasn't such a spotlight on him, that he'd probably be on Team Canada this year. He should be. And probably get a lot less flack about those mistakes. But everybody here has their phones out recording him, hoping he makes a mistake so they can post it on Instagram.
Yeah. Well, and as you mentioned, you got a jam-packed schedule for the Oilers heading into that Olympic break. So how important was that win for the team?
It felt big because it would have been 3 in a row that we lost, and we were looking at like that section even at the start of the season, and it looked like it was just going to be where we could pad some stats, like a lot of home games in a row, a nice like 8 or 9 game home stretch, and we also had 4 of them, I think. The team was coming off playing in Calgary the night before and then rolling in here tired. So 500 isn't good enough for January, and when you lose 3 in a row, all of a sudden 500 is starting to sound good. So it just felt like it, as far as middle of January games go, they don't always feel that important, but this one kind of did, and it was a nice comeback win, and hopefully they can build off of it going into a big game tonight against Anaheim, who is oddly really good this year.
How difficult is it to be an Edmonton Oiler? Like, good grief. You made the Stanley Cup final each of the last 2 years, but hearing what you're saying, Ryder, I get the impression that fans take pictures of the way the Oilers park their cars in the parking lot at practice to just critique something.
Yeah, it feels like this used to really be just known as a sports town. Everything was well supported, from the Golden Bears to junior hockey. And over the last few years, it feels like it's just really become an Oilers city and then everybody else. I mean, the Riverhawks are pretty well supported. I think if the Elks could put together a winning season here, we'd start to see those stands fill up a bit more again. But the spotlight is on... It's on the Oilers. So they have a bad night. I mean, everybody knows about it. Their neighbors probably texting them about it. Like, it's just everybody's locked into the games. We know what time the games are going to start. You got your bets in. You're texting your buddies about it. This town kind of shuts down when the Oilers are playing.
Well, it's the old Charlestown Chiefs, right, from Slapshot the movie, right? We know who owns the Oilers, but do we know who's the starting goalie? Because there's 3 of them there, and nobody's running away with it.
Yeah, I think we know it's not Pickard at this point. I think most of the fan base seemed to be pretty excited about the Jari and Ingram duo, and we've seen a lot of like decent duos around here. I think back to like when, Mike Smith was going in and he could like handle the puck so well, and it was so different than Koskinen at the time, but Koskinen would put up good games other than letting in the first shot every game. But now, it seems like maybe we found our duo. It wasn't the best performance on Saturday night, but I also think when you're playing the Washington Capitals, if you're having a bit of an off night, they can make it look pretty rough.
Anaheim comes in. Boy, they're hot. 7 wins in a row. They're third place in the Pacific Division right behind the Oilers. What do the Oilers need to do to make a statement in this game?
I think it was just a couple games ago against the Penguins where they let in 3 goals in 37 seconds. So I would say maybe do the opposite of what they did against the Penguins. A good start. You know, if you can keep the game tight, we've seen it a ton of times this season, and either the other team gets a penalty or it's the last 2 minutes of the game. We've got the guys that are just better, and they kind of save just a little bit. And can look absolutely terrifying to the other team if we're in a position to win. So, like close games, I like our chances. Overtime, I like our chances. And hopefully play off the fact that Anaheim was in Calgary last night and might have their road legs on them.
That seems to be a bit of a thread, right? You know, road teams coming into Edmonton from Calgary, and it's always going to be an interesting matchup, especially when you have a hot team coming in to Oil Town. But I'm curious, as someone who actually lives with a Calgary Flames fan, Ryder, why do I want to be an Oilers fan? Sell me on it.
I mean, if you enjoy watching greatness, it's hard to beat that. I go down to Rogers Place and I can't believe I'm graced this opportunity. It feels like I'm in Chicago in the 90s watching MJ. Like, McDavid is just so elite. It's mind-blowing. Like, worth the price of admission alone just to go and watch him do his thing. But, I mean, I genuinely love the team I have for a long time. There was a lot of years where it was kind of tricky to be a fan or to spend money to go down to the rink when you knew it was probably going to be a loss. But right now, this is what the payoff for me for being a fan as long as I have been is getting to watch this team. And Draisaitl's just magnificent. Bouchard, you look what he did, like 6 points and a hat trick for a defenseman. He had 8 shots that night too. Like, he could have been on Gagne's trail when Gagne had that 8-point night the way he was playing. And even the pass in overtime that he made to get it up to McDavid while falling down. Like, I don't know. Every time I go there, unless we get blown up like the Pittsburgh game, it feels like I'm just getting to go watch greatness, win or lose.
You mentioned a lot of players' names in that response, and there is a lot of talented hockey players on this roster. But I wanted to get your take on Zach Hyman. Do you feel as though maybe that was an Olympic snub there? Do you feel like he should maybe be considered if a spot opens up on the team?
Yeah, I mean, to me, you look at what they decided to do in 2010, and it was let Kunitz tag along because Crosby knew how to play with them. And you do see, like at the Four Nations, I felt this way with McDavid, that they spent half the tournament trying to find somebody that could play with them. And I think the tricky part is you not only have to keep up with his feet, but he's thinking 3 steps ahead of everybody else. So I know that they tried some other guys on his line over the years here in Edmonton and internationally, and it's just hard to find somebody that gels with him immediately. Marner managed to do decent in the Four Nations with him, so I wouldn't be surprised if those two end up playing some shifts together. But Hyman has figured out where to be, even if he goes and stands in front of the net and McDavid just banks it off of his face. He's there, and over the last 20 games, I think he's the leading goal scorer in the NHL. The last I checked, like 17 goals in his last 21 games. Other than when he was injured, he was on pace for like 60 goals over the last year. He kills penalties. He is great on the power play. You can trust him to go out and get 8-10 hits a game and not take a stupid penalty. I have no understanding of why he wasn't a shoe-in onto that team.
Without taking a stupid penalty. I feel like you're looking right at me as a Canucks fan and Evander Kane, but I'll leave that there for now. Or
truthfully, Tom Wilson too. Like, I get he's an amazing player, but with 4 minutes left, I don't know. I'd trust Hyman out there more not to take a penalty that could lose you the tournament. I do like Tom Wilson, and I'm glad he's on the team as well, but there are some guys like that can get themselves in trouble.
I think Tom Wilson's high note of the season was in Edmonton. Or no, sorry, wrong. Anyways, what I was going to say when it comes to the Olympic break, though, and you mentioned Zach Hyman, you mentioned Evan Bouchard, is it a little bit of a blessing in disguise that they're not going to the Olympics? They played a lot of hockey the last 2 years, and if they get a break, that could be dangerous.
Yeah, I mean, I was originally really disappointed, and I thought there was a chance that even they take that whole Oilers first line with Nuge as well, especially with how much you can trust him in all situations. And so when they actually rolled out the team and it was pretty much just the Four Nations team again, I was pretty disappointed as an Oilers fan, but the more we post about it, the comment sections are filled with, no, this is the best news ever. Hyman could use the break, Nuge could use the break, Bouchard could use the break, we know that Leon's probably going to be getting 45 minutes a night for Team Germany, and Connor, is probably going to get his fair share of ice time as well. So I guess it is a bit of a blessing in disguise. Personally, I'd rather see at least 2 or 3 of them that made Team Canada, but we'll take McDavid.
McDavid, that could be a low end at 45 minutes for Draisaitl. The only guy that'll get more ice time in Germany is the goalie, potentially, because that could even change.
Yeah.
So when you're looking at, again, you talked about January, what a busy schedule it is. The best part is that it's at home for the Oilers. It seemed like they were on the road so much to start the season. So is there some concern in the fact that 500 seems to be acceptable?
I think there's some concern. At the start of the season, we've had bad starts before, and this one, it just seemed like it was just as much the scheduling as anything else. But you kind of thought that they'd go on another heater again. I mean, last year was 16 in a row around this time of year. I didn't expect that again. But 500 at this point, thank goodness we're in the Pacific Division and not the Central, because if you end up first, second, or third, you likely, if you're in second, that means Vegas is probably first. So you avoid the Golden Knights. We don't have to cross over and play, Colorado, Minnesota, if until later rounds. I think it would be the third round likely. So I think first, second, or third is good in the Pacific. You got a really good chance, even if you're the road team. The Oilers have the experience over the last couple of years. And like I said, in those close games, if you can lean in on that firepower in the last minute or two, like McDavid, Draisaitl, Hyman, they'll probably get it done. So it doesn't scare me too much looking ahead at playoffs. It's just kind of get yourself into first, second, or third. I'd want to avoid a wild card spot because then you might end up with Colorado in the first round. But 500 is it good enough? I guess for regular season it is, and then you hope just every round it's a little better than 500. That's all you need.
And to go back a little bit to the microscope that these players are put under in a market like Edmonton, we see it just as bad out in Toronto. If not, it might even be worse, dare I say. So I need to get your take on what happened with Nylander over the weekend. Of course, the camera, it pans to a bunch of the players up in the suite box, and he then proceeds to flip the bird. Now, ended up issuing an apology afterwards, but that was kind of just, in my opinion, being someone who was not a Leafs fan, that was kind of telling about the leadership and that vibe, I guess, for lack of a better term, in the dressing room. But then I was thinking about it, McDavid would never do something like that. So maybe what's the contrast there of what the players bring to the table in terms of that quote-unquote vibe and leadership?
Yeah, I mean, the first time I watched it, I laughed, but then I realized that, I'm not a kid that idolizes him or a parent with a kid in the room that idolizes Willie Nylander. So then I realized, okay, that's a pretty bad move, but I also can totally see myself doing it. You just try to be silly, impress your buddies beside you. You flip the bird once in a while, but yeah, when it comes to you look at Toronto and you look at Edmonton, I think the expectation that maybe is a precedent that was set from Gretzky and Messier and the legacy of this city, the hockey team takes itself pretty seriously. I mean, when Nail Yakupov was drafted here to the Oilers, I got shirts made up to give away on the radio show, and they were lady cut shirts, and it said, "I want a Nail Yakupov." and I'd just give them to caller 64 every game or whatever. And the Oilers found out about it, and I got a cease and desist, and we had to actually destroy the shirts and show them proof. So they take themselves maybe even a little too... Yeah, we burnt them. So they take themselves maybe even a little bit too seriously, but I think in situations like that, the players would know better. Most guys in the NHL, you got to think, would know better than that. But I'm sure as soon as he did it, he was probably like, what the hell am I doing?
Well, and I got to think about it from like a coaching perspective. These guys are typically complaining that, oh, we're always in the spotlight. We're always in the spotlight. Toronto media is terrible. Well, you're kind of doing it to yourself at that point, are you not?
Yeah, he almost seemed surprised that he was on camera. He's like, hey, look it, guys. But aren't you always on camera in Toronto? Like, there's wall-to-wall coverage on TSN of what they had for breakfast. You'd think they'd get used to the camera.
Well, yeah, it's like going to a Raptors game, sitting courtside and thinking, oh, well, I'm not going to make it on the broadcast.
Right.
See, the devastating part of this story is that when I moved here, as I was told that was the Regina Ring Road salute, I didn't think there was anything wrong with it. But when I do want to get your opinion, though, but you talked about Colorado. You mentioned Colorado, and obviously Colorado is going to put the fear in anybody right now, the way that they're playing. But is Vegas slowly making themselves into that next team that you should be scared of in the West, just because somehow way through a series of IOUs and car wash tokens, they stay underneath the salary cap with everybody that they seem to be able to bring in? But I would be scared.
Yeah, it's just surprising to me that every year, whoever the number one free agent is going to be, whoever like the biggest name on the trade bait board is, Vegas is always in the mix, whether they get them or not. Like, I don't remember the last time the Oilers were in the mix for a big name at the trade deadline. And why? Like, now that this city has seemed to become a place that you can sign free agents to because they want to play with the best players in the world, you'd think that sell off some of the team. But yeah, Vegas, what they put together every year is very scary. And I mean, the year on their cup run, they managed to wipe us out on their way there. It seems like we're pretty good at losing to the team that wins the Stanley Cup, but it would be nice to see the Oilers healthy in a series like that. I'd still probably think that they take it, but you add Rasmus Andersson to that lineup, and obviously with his ties to the Flames all the years, we watched a lot of him. He's a pretty special defenseman. So yeah, that team got a lot more scary just with that trade.
So Dave dug up a little something. For those who don't know, of course, Ryder is joining us from the Sauce podcast on Oilers Nation, and we noticed that you had quite an interesting conversation recently with the Tiger King.
Yeah.
How did that happen? How did that come to be?
He reached out to us.
From jail?
Don't understand that. Yeah, I think my buddy ended up like writing him on Instagram a couple years ago and just wishing him well. My buddy must have been drinking and watching Tiger King and sent a little shout out to him. And so he reached out because the Tiger King responded at that point to him and just said, thank you so much. Like, God bless, whatever. So my buddy reached out again and said, hey, it's been a long time. My friends have a podcast. I'm sure they'd love to promote your Valentine's Day special, because for 50 American, Joe Exotic will call your partner on Valentine's Day and just leave them a loving message or whatever. I don't know how he's he's running a business from jail. That doesn't seem like it's allowed at jail, but sure enough, he says, yeah, I'd love to jump on your friend's podcast. So we had a 20-minute conversation with the Tiger King, which if you would have told me that while I was watching the show 2 years ago, like you're going to have the chance to interview this guy, I would have been pretty pumped up.
Scratch that off the bucket list, I guess.
Yeah.
Sheesh. That's probably the weirdest call that you've ever taken coming from the sin bin and what you do.
I mean, we get a lot of calls from the jails in the area, and it's always interesting because they'll always request songs and send it out to all their buddies in their cell block. But they all have really unique interesting nicknames. Like it'll be like, can you send this Akon song out to Skinny Pete and Razor Blade Rick and Double Homicide Henry and like, you know.
I would have bet there was a lot of Whitney Houston or Mariah Carey, but okay.
Number 1 in inmates 18 to 34. Congratulations. Hell of a job.
I actually believe our station, our show used to run a little splitter in between music that said number 1 in the remand center.
Oh my gosh. You've made it, Ryder. You have absolutely made it.
Wow. That is so awesome. There is no level of awesomeness that I can compare that to.
No.
No.
I can't top that.
When we launched our show on Oilers Nation, we're the first show that they're ever like trying out that isn't just sports. So like all the other shows are kind of sports and entertainment. They wanted one that was more entertainment and sports. Like we'll talk hockey if big things happen, but we also just kind of try to feel the vibe of the city. And if a lot of people are talking hockey, playoff runs, for example, I'm sure it'll be wall-to-wall Oilers chat. But it is interesting when you see people that are used to nothing but Oilers talk that come over to the Instagram page and are like, what the hell is Joe Exotic doing on here?
You got to keep them on their toes. Come on, Ryder. You can't be predictable. That's when it gets boring.
Right.
Well, Ryder from the Sauce Podcast from Oilers Nation, thank you so much for doing this, buddy. We'll have to do it again sometime soon.
Yeah, sounds great. Thanks for having me, guys.
And make sure that you go check out the interview that he had with the Tiger King.
The Tiger King. Joe Exotic.
Something I thought I would never say on this show.
Joe Exotic.
But yeah, okay. The Tiger King. Love it. Okay, we'll talk soon, buddy.
Yeah, see you later, guys.